We're here today to debate the rule for House Resolution 21, a resolution calling for Vice President Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment and declare President Donald Trump incapable of executing the duties of his office. We take this action solemnly and with grave concern for the safety and security of our nation and its people, even in the final days of this president's administration. Last Wednesday, a lawless mob breached this chamber with the most evil and destructive intent. They were here to take the law into their own hands, to disrupt Congress as it counted the Electoral College votes, and to overturn the lawful election of Joseph Biden as our 46th president. As violent invaders broke windows and rammed doors, they chanted that they wanted to hang the vice president and kidnap the Speaker of the House, and they brought the tools to do it. They beat one police officer to death, tased others, and tried to shoot one with his own gun. Another officer will likely lose an eye. Scores of others suffered head injuries when they were beaten with pipes. Blood was spilled on the marble floor just outside this room. Members, staff, and reporters were forced to take cover under furniture and barricade themselves in rooms, clutching gas masks and fearing for their lives as the president's MAGA supporters chanted and raged nearby. Journalists were specifically targeted and beaten. Explosive devices were placed nearby to divert the police from protecting the Capitol. This was not a peaceful protest. These were crimes against our country and the people who go to work every day on Capitol Hill. Just this afternoon, the FBI announced that it expects to charge hundreds of people with crimes ranging from simple trespass to conspiracy and sedition, to weapons offenses, to felony murder. Crimes like this do not occur in a vacuum. They must be planned. They must be led. The attack on the Capitol was incited by this administration. For months, they told their supporters that if they didn't win the election was rigged. When the majority of American voters decided they'd had enough of this chaos, they declared that the election had been stolen. The administration invited the president's most rabid supporters to come to D.C. on January 6th for a wild protest. Then the administration whipped them into a frenzy and sent the mob across town to attack the Capitol and disrupt the counting of Electoral College votes. But it didn't end there. The president reportedly watched with excitement as the news media began streaming images of the terror at the Capitol to electronic devices in America and around the world. The president tweeted that the vice president had betrayed him, and even after the violence was apparent, the president and his lawyer placed calls to allies on Capitol Hill trying to persuade them to prolong their objections to the counting of the electoral votes. What the administration didn't do for hours was to lift a finger to call off the mob or to rally support to defend the government, the historic monuments in the Capitol, the police, or especially the people under siege in the building. Members here in this chamber know that for hours, the president refused to return their calls begging for help. And in the days since, the administration has continued to claim that the election was rigged. It has denied any responsibility for the riot and praised the rioters, all while reports proliferate that the administration's supporters are planning more violence in the weeks ahead. This is why this president remains a clear and present danger to the country so long as he continues to serve. The reality is that we all, even the most loyal political supporters, know that this president is unfit for office. Any other president with an ounce of character would have resigned after seeing the bloody consequences of the actions on Wednesday. Any other administration would have invoked the 25th Amendment long ago. I don't care if a president incites a riot against Congress on his first day or the last day of his or her presidency. Such an act is a crime against our government, much less against the people who are terrorized or killed in the attack. If a president can refuse to acknowledge the will of the American voters, then incite a coup to stay in power without punishment, then our democracy is lost. That's why it's vital for Vice President Pence and the cabinet to do the right thing, to invoke the 25th Amendment. Otherwise, this Congress must remove Donald Trump from office. I've heard the calls for unity, and I agree that now is the time to come forward in unity to defend our country, not to defend a man who's proven himself incompetent to occupy the office of the president for another day. I'm grateful to those members of the Republican Party who agree that the time has come to put loyalty to country above partisan considerations, and we welcome their support in taking whatever actions are necessary to end this chaos, to defend our government, and to protect the American people. I also find the cries of partisanship by the president's remaining supporters to be unconvincing. The whole world watched in horror on January 6th as the administration encouraged a mob to attack the seat of our democracy, to disrupt the election of Joseph R. Biden, and then stood by as rioters sacked the Capitol. Many civic leaders from both parties have condemned the president's actions and called for his removal, so no, this is not partisan. But I invite the president's supporters in Congress, no, I beg them, to join the American people in holding this president accountable for the violence we experienced last week and to prevent further chaos in the days to come. Before I conclude, I want to take a minute to give my deepest condolences to the families of the Capitol Police officers who died as a result of this attack. I want to thank the men and women of the Metro and Capitol Police forces who valiantly defended both our democracy and the people who work on the Hill, and wish a speedy recovery to the scores who were injured during the attack. I also want to thank our tireless facilities and custodial staff for putting the building back together after terrorists violated it, and the members of the press corps who've been so abused by this administration and were specifically targeted by this mob, but continued documenting the attack so Americans could see what was really happening. And lastly, I want to thank our staff across the Capitol for their bravery and dedication to public service. I want to thank you for the work you do every day, but especially for your heroism in returning to the floor last Wednesday night to help us continue the Electoral College vote count. And thank you for being back here with us today. We're indebted to you for your service to our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman.